How did a descendant of the Mongol conqueror Genghis Khan and the emperor and founder of the Mughal Dynasty shape the history of northern India? Hello and welcome to UPSC History View. Today, let's learn about Babur. Babur, also spelled Babur or Babur, original name Zahīr al-Din Muhammad, was born on February 15, 1483, Principality of Fargana, now in Uzbekistan. Babur died on December 26, 1530 in Agra, India. He was the emperor from 1526 to 30 and founder of the Mughal Dynasty of northern India. Babur was a descendant of the Mongol conqueror Genghis Khan and also of the Turkic conqueror Timur or Tamerlane, and he was a military adventurer, a soldier of distinction, a poet and diarist of genius, as well as a statesman. Let's take a look at the early years of Babur. Babur came from the Barlas tribe of Mongol origin, but isolated members of the tribe considered themselves Turks in language and customs through long residence in Turkish regions. Hence, Babur, though called a Mughal, drew most of his support from Turks, and the empire he founded was Turkish in character. Babur's family had become members of the Chagatai clan, by which name they are known. He was fifth in male succession from Timur and 13th from the female line from Genghis Khan. Babur's father, Umar Sheikh Mirza, ruled the small principality of Fargana to the north of the Hindu Kush mountain range. Because there was no fixed law of succession among the Turks, every prince of the Timurids, the dynasty founded by Timur, considered it his right to rule the whole of Timur's dominions. Those territories were vast, and hence the princes' claims led to unending wars. The Timurid princes, moreover, considered themselves kings by profession, their business being to rule others without observing too precisely whether any particular region had actually formed a part of Timur's empire. Babur's father, true to that tradition, spent his life trying to recover Timur's old capital of Samarkand, now in Uzbekistan, and Babur followed in his footsteps. The qualities needed to succeed in that dynastic warfare were the abilities to inspire loyalty and devotion, to manage the turbulent factions often caused by family feuds, and to draw revenue from the trading and agricultural classes. Babur eventually mastered them all, but he was also a commander of genius. For 10 years, from 1494 to 1504, Babur sought to recover Samarkand and twice occupied it briefly, in 1497 and 1501. But in Muhammad Shaybani Khan, a descendant of Genghis Khan and ruler of the Uzbeks beyond the Jaxartes river, that is the ancient name for the Sir Darya, he had an opponent more powerful than even his closest relatives. In 1501, Babur was decisively defeated at Saripol and within 3 years had lost both Samarkand and his principality of Fargana. There was always hope at that time, however, for a prince with engaging qualities and strong leadership abilities. In 1504, Babur seized Kabul in Afghanistan with his personal followers, maintaining himself there against all rebellions and intrigues. His last unsuccessful attempt of Samarkand in 1511 to 12 induced him to give up a futile quest and to concentrate on expansion elsewhere. In 1522, when he was already turning his attention to Sindh, now a province in Pakistan, and India, he finally secured Kandahar, a strategic site now in Afghanistan on the road to Sindh. When Babur made his first raid into India in 1519, the Punjab region, now divided between the Indian state and the Pakistani province, was part of the dominions of Sultan Ibrahim Lodi of Delhi, but the governor Daulat Khan Lodi resented Ibrahim's attempts to diminish his authority. By 1524, Babur had invaded the Punjab 3 more times but was unable to master the tangled course of Punjab and Delhi politics sufficiently enough to achieve a firm foothold. Yet it was clear that the Delhi Sultanate was involved in contentious quarrelling and ripe for overthrow. After mounting a full-scale attack there, Babur was recalled by an Uzbek attack on his Kabul kingdom, but a joint request for help from Alam Khan, Ibrahim's uncle, and Daulat Khan encouraged Babur to attempt his fifth and first successful raid. Let's take a look at the major successes of Babur. First, the victories in India. Setting out in November 1525, Babur met Ibrahim at Panipat, 50 miles or 80 kilometers north of Delhi, on April 21, 1526. Babur's army was estimated at no more than 12,000, but they were seasoned followers, adept at cavalry tactics, and were aided by new artillery acquired from the Ottoman Turks. Ibrahim's army was said to number 100,000 with 100 elephants, but his tactics were antiquated and it was dissentious. Babur won the battle by coolness under fire, his use of artillery and effective Turkish wheeling tactics on a divided, dispirited enemy. Ibrahim was killed in battle. With his usual speed, Babur occupied Delhi 3 days later and reached Agra on May 4th. His first action there was to lay out a garden now known as the Ram Bagh by the Yamuna river. That brilliant success must have seemed at the time to be of little difference from one of his former forays on Samarkand. Babur's small force, burdened by the oppressive weather and located 800 miles from their base at Kabul, was surrounded by powerful foes. All down the Ganges River valley were militant Afghan chiefs in disarray but with a formidable military potential. To the south were the kingdoms of Malwa and Gujarat, both with extensive resources, while in Rajasthan, Rana Sanga of Mewar or Udaipur was head of a powerful confederacy threatening the whole Muslim position in northern India. Babur's first problem was that his own followers, suffering from the heat and disheartened by the hostile surroundings, wished to return home as Timur had done. By employing threats, reproaches, promises, and appeals vividly described in his memoirs, Babur diverted them. He then dealt with Rana Sanga, who, when he found that Babur was not retiring as his Turkish ancestor had done, advanced with an estimated 100,000 horses and 500 elephants. With most of the neighboring strongholds still held by his foes, Babur was virtually surrounded. He sought divine favor by abjuring liquor, breaking the wine vessels, and pouring the wine down a well. Babur's followers responded both to that act and his stirring exhortations and stood their ground at Khanua, 37 miles or 60 kilometers west of Agra, on March 16, 1527. Babur used his customary tactics, a barrier of wagons for his center with gaps for the artillery and for cavalry sallies, and wheeling cavalry charges on the wings. The artillery stampeded the elephants and the flank charges bewildered the Rajputs, which was a ruling warrior caste at that time, who after 10 hours broke, never to rally under a single leader again. Babur now had to deal with the defiant Afghans to the east, who had captured Lucknow while he was facing Rana Sanga. Other Afghans had rallied to Sultan Ibrahim's brother Mahmud Lodi, who had occupied Bihar. There were also Rajput chiefs still defying him, principally the ruler of Chanderi. After capturing that fortress in January 1528, Babur turned to the east. Crossing the Ganges, Babur drove the Afghan captor of Lucknow into Bengal. He then turned on Mahmud Lodi, whose army was scattered in Babur's third great victory, that of the Ghaghra, where that river joins the Ganges on May 6, 1529. Artillery was again decisive, helped by the skillful handling of boats. Let's take a look at the establishment of the Mughal Empire. Babur's dominions were now secure from Kandahar to the borders of Bengal, with a southern limit marked by the Rajput Desert and the forts of Ranthambore, Gwalior and Chanderi. Within that great area, however, there was no settled administration, only a congeries of quarreling chiefs. An empire had been gained, but still had to be pacified and organized. It was thus a precarious heritage that Babur passed on to his son Humayun. In 1530, when Humayun became deathly ill, Babur is said to have offered his life to God in exchange for Humayun's, walking 7 times around the bed to complete the vow. Humayun recovered and Babur's health declined, and Babur died the same year. Let's learn about the legacy of Babur. Babur is rightly considered the founder of the Mughal Empire, even though the work of consolidating the empire was performed by his grandson Akbar. Babur, moreover, provided the magnetic leadership that inspired the next 2 generations. Babur was a military adventurer of genius and an empire builder of good fortune with an engaging personality. He was also a gifted Turki poet, which would have won him distinction apart from his political career, as well as a lover of nature who constructed gardens wherever he went and complimented beautiful spots by holding convivial parties. Finally, Babur's prose memoirs, the Baburname, have become a renowned autobiography. They were translated from Turki into Persian in Akbar's reign in 1589 and were translated into English, the Memoirs of Babur, in 2 volumes and were first published in 1921-22. They portray a ruler unusually magnanimous for his age, cultured and witty, with an adventurous spirit and an acute eye for natural beauty. Thank you for listening to this discussion on Babur. For more such discussions, get the UPSC Practice app from the App Store.